Welcome everybody. We are on site at Founder World in San Francisco. I'm joined in the studio right now by Michael. He's the VP of Mobile at UserTesting. Thanks for joining me, Michael.
My pleasure.
Awesome. So let's start with what UserTesting is all about.
Sure. So we are a really fast way to get user feedback on an app or website. So you come to our site, you define the demographics that you need, the questions you want people to answer, the tasks that you want them to perform. And if it's an app or website, you upload your build to us or you give us the URL for the place. We then deploy it out to our panel. They video themselves doing what you've asked for, so you get audio and video of the screen and of them topping. If it's on a mobile device, we capture taps and swipes and stuff like that.
Yep.
And then it gets sent back to you so you can watch it. The turnaround time can be as little as an hour.
Wow.
So it lets you get user feedback within a design sprint. So you can do a new build in the morning,
Yep.
You can then send it out over lunchtime, and by the time you get back from lunch, you're starting to get those videos. So really fast feedback on usability issues, or do they understand stuff, or other things like that.
So those videos, are they bite-sized? Is there any way to avoid kind of data overload? So that you
Good
don't
question.
Get a bunch of videos?
Yeah, so if you want, you can do it all yourself. So you come
Sure.
and define the test and you watch all the videos, and that's fine. If you want, we can do all that for you.
Right.
So we'll watch the videos, we'll pick out the highlights, and we explain, okay, here's the problem, here are 3 little 30-second clips.
Okay.
So it's basically whichever way you want to use the service. More expensive if you have it full service, it's less expensive if it's self-serve.
So how does that scale for you guys? Obviously, having within an hour to be able to turn that around,
Yep.
you would need a lot of testers. Where do you source those? How do you do that?
Yeah, a lot of it has been through part-time work boards and other sorts of places where we get just word of mouth. So we haven't had to advertise very much. It's kind of built up itself over time. The company's about 8 years old, so
Okay.
we've had the luxury of being able to just grow it organically over time. And we got about 1 million respondents available now, so it's turned
Wow.
into a pretty big thing. Yeah, we do thousands of tests a week.
Based mostly in the U.S. or all around the world?
English-speaking countries, so US, UK. We're starting to expand to other places. We can do testing in India, for instance.
Okay.
So if somebody needs a particular country, we can usually do some custom recruiting for that.
Okay, very cool. So obviously, having run 8 years worth of tests and seen all of this stuff, you must see a lot of interesting tidbits that would be really helpful for entrepreneurs as they think about this, building their products.
Yep.
Can you share some of those?
Sure. A couple of greatest hits, I guess.
Right.
One would be never assume that an icon or a particular word is going to be intuitive to your users just because it's intuitive to your team.
Okay.
You have no idea how many weird icon designs we've seen, like on buttons, where the designers think, oh, it'll be obvious that you push this in order to do that. And when the users get to it, it's just like, what in the world am I supposed to do here?
Okay.
So my personal recommendation, I know it's not pretty, but I think the only 2 icons that are universally recognized on mobile devices are the little magnifying glass means search,
Right.
and the question mark means help. Everything else, including the hamburger menu, a
Interesting.
lot of people will misunderstand. And so maybe you put words underneath. Even though it's not as pretty, it makes your app look a little bit more cluttered. The question is, are you shooting for pretty or are you shooting for usable?
Right.
And when you have to choose, I think you want to go for usable. The other thing we've been seeing a lot lately that I think is a really important one is we are now able to test out in the wild.
Okay.
So just recently we've added the capability we can deploy these tests out directly to a smartphone, for instance, where somebody who's walking down the street can use your app. The level of distraction in the real world when people are using mobile, because they've got stuff going on and they're
Right.
getting social notifications and stuff like that, is unbelievably high. So you'll see even a beautifully designed app that is well designed to convey information, people will see stuff that is written right in front of them on the screen and they just won't see it.
Okay.
It's just kind of this cognitive distraction thing where they've got so much input coming in when they're out on the street
Right.
that your threshold for being obvious, being intuitive, being usable is much higher in the real world than it is like when you're doing a design review in some
Yeah.
quiet room where you project it up on the wall and stuff like that. That's not reality. You need to be testing stuff out in the real world.
Interesting. So how do you get past that? What are a few little tidbits to get past kind of the design issue of having so much information going into an individual?
So one thing is, the self-serving thing of test stuff on UserTesting. Sure. We'll set that aside.
That's good. Good to start with that.
But I think the big thing is being really sympathetic to the situation that the users can be in and backstop them.
Yeah.
So for instance, we tested out one of the major restaurant finding sites to see, okay, let's have somebody actually pick out a restaurant and then walk to that restaurant. Let's watch the whole progress as they walk down the street, all that sort of stuff, because we can turn on the backside cameras so we can watch them as they walk down the street. And what we found was one of the testers ended up walking to a restaurant that was closed. And when we looked back at the app, it did notify them that the restaurant was closed, but it was just in one spot on one of the panels, and it was just one word, and they flipped past it because they were in a hurry. So if you're designing that app, maybe what you want to do is say, okay, they went from the app listing to going to the map function within the app, so they're obviously walking to the restaurant. The restaurant is closed. Maybe we want to pop up a dialogue that says, hey, just to remind you, the restaurant's closed, pal. Are you sure you want to walk to it right now?
Right.
You know, so you should assume that people actually don't see notifications the first time. And if by monitoring their behavior, that tells you that they probably didn't get it the first time, you need to repeat it several times. And sometimes that's going to pester your users a little bit, so give them the chance to opt out of that if you're getting to be too annoying.
Yep.
But saving somebody 10 minutes when they're walking down the street, that's a huge deal for a mobile app.
Interesting. So in that instance, we talked about you using the backside camera and then access to location and things like that. Do you deal a lot with people and permission flows on how they ask people what they can use and when, so that they're able to do these types of things?
So we get permission ahead of time, so the users understand exactly what's going on.
Yep.
We add a little red bar that's at the top of the screen when we're recording, so that they're reminded that recording is going on.
Yep.
And we also instruct them on the things that they can't do. The big thing is, you're not allowed to interview somebody else without permission. So you can record yourself, and that's just fine. But for instance, if I had it running here and I was pointing the camera at you, I would have to ask you permission under US law. Otherwise, that's like some horrible wiretapping thing or something like that. It's awful. You don't want to go there.
Yeah. But so I guess the example I want to touch on is if I'm building an app, right? And then I have to ask for permissions for things. Do you ever come to a point where you have to actually design for when you only get partial permissions?
Generally, what we do with the testers is we get their permissions up front.
Right.
So now, obviously, if you're asking for a special permission within the OS, like your app is asking for their location, that permission dialog is going to pop up the same as it would any time other that you're using the app. So they'll just do that. But for permission to record their voice, record their image, take some information from their device, we've already cleared all that stuff with them.
Cool. Interesting. Okay, so we're at Founder World. There's been thousands of people walking here over the past couple of days. There's a lot of exciting technology on the floor.
Yep.
What is it that you've seen that's kind of excited you here?
Oh yeah, in general, the thing that's got me the most excited, not just here but in the industry in general, is all the VR and 3D stuff that's going on. So I've I guess it's an advantage of being in the industry for a while. I've seen some of the former platforms as they became really prominent. Like the graphical interface and the web itself. And the VR stuff, when you combine 3D printing with all the VR visualization we're able to do now, it feels like the early days of those platforms where, wow, as we dig in, we're starting to be able to create some really surprising, non-intuitive stuff like, I had no idea. And we don't know yet what to do with the technology, and to me that's the most exciting thing, because these developers are literally creating the future right now.
Right.
And so that stuff, if I weren't working at UserTesting, I'd be digging into that stuff right now, because I think it's got huge potential.
That's really cool. So a relevant but maybe sidetrack question. Do you have a favorite Google technology?
It's hard to pick. So I don't want to offend any of the teams, but since I'm a mobile guy, Android.
Android.
Yeah.
That's good.
Because it's done so much, and it has so much impact around the world.
Yeah. Great. Well, thank you very much for joining us.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Awesome.
Lots of fun.
And thank you guys for joining us. We are on site at Founder World in San Francisco.